Welcome to the second episode of Motorcycles in the Wild, where we take a closer look at motorcycles as we find them parked on the street. These videos are dedicated to bikes that are used and abused on a daily basis, and they may not be the latest or the greatest, but to us they're still interesting. The bike in this video brings back childhood memories. When I was growing up in the 80s, there was this bizarre rumor floating around about a pop star Prince. The story went that the motorcycle he rode in Purple Rain was custom built to be smaller than a typical bike, just to make Prince, who stood 5'2", look taller. Supposedly the bike was 3/4 the size of a normal motorcycle. As a kid who didn't know much about bikes, this wild tale made perfect sense to me because it fit right in with the eccentric image of a pop star. Of course, as it turned out, there wasn't much truth to that rumor. The bike Prince rode was just a 1981 Honda CA125 Honda Matic, dressed up with custom paint and a few aftermarket touches like a new handlebar, a sissy bar and a windshield. Sure, it was a small motorcycle, but definitely not the scaled down version people talked about. Ironically, you can now get a scaled model of Prince on that very bike at 1:6 scale. Seeing this Honda CA125 Rebel parked on the street brought that old Prince story to mind. I like to think Prince would have appreciated this bike, especially with its compact size and original purple color. Now, I've always thought small capacity cruisers look a little funny, no offense intended. They seem to have big ambitions, but they don't quite pull them off. I'm not exactly an expert on cruisers like Harleys, Indians, or even the Japanese ones like the Honda Shadow or the Suzuki Intruder, but I think it's fair to say that part of a cruiser's appeal is its big, bold look. And let's face it, size matters when it comes to pulling off that vibe. So, smaller cruisers often strike me as a bit amusing. They're trying to make an impression but not quite hitting the mark. In some ways they remind me of how people used to describe Prince. Small in stature but big in attitude. And this Rebel 125 definitely fits that description. But I get it, this bike still meets the needs of plenty of riders. For someone new to riding, the idea of handling a 400 kilo Indian Roadmaster or Harley Road Glide might be intimidating. In that case, a smaller Rebel makes a lot more sense. And make no mistake, this is a small bike. Standing next to it, the low seat height is immediately noticeable. Weighing in at less than 150 kilos, fully fueled, with a seat height of just 67 centimeters, the Honda Rebel 125 is an easy, approachable way for new or inexperienced riders to step into the cruiser world. It still keeps a classic cruiser style with features like spoked wheels, a cow horn handlebar, forward foot controls, and plenty of chrome for that iconic cruiser look. The official model name for this bike is the JC24. One of its standout features is a 2-cylinder inline engine. Something you don't often see in modern 125cc motorcycles, which usually have just one cylinder. I haven't had the chance to ride this Rebel myself, but I've heard from others that the twin-cylinder engine makes for a smoother ride compared to single-cylinder competitors. This particular Honda CA125 Rebel was built at Honda's Kumamoto factory in 1996, though later models were made in Spain. Honda no longer produces this model, but back in its day it was a pretty affordable bike. So it's not surprising that it is a bit basic in terms of features. It's got a simple chassis, a basic swing arm and twin shocks that can only be adjusted for preload. But from what I've read on forums, it's a reliable bike. I checked the current listings and you can find one for around 2,000 euros in Europe. On the used market, its main competition is the Honda VT125 Shadow, which replaced it. The Shadow has a true V-twin engine, a bulkier look and better overall build quality. It also boasts 15 horsepower compared to the Rebel's 11. But the Rebel still holds its own, especially in Europe, where a 125cc bike is often the very first step towards getting a full motorcycle license. This particular Rebel looks a little rough around the edges, but nothing out of the ordinary for a bike that's been regularly used and likely parked outside. The engine casings are a bit weathered, which isn't surprising for a nearly 30-year-old bike, but the exhaust downpipes are clean, which tells me someone has been taking care of it. The tank is large and has a rounded bulbous shape, but it's got noticeable dents on both sides, evidence of at least 2 drops. Combined with the small engine capacity, this suggests it might have been used as a learner bike. There are a few other quirks too. The right turn signal lens is a bit off. The left rear indicator seems to have come loose. The clock is tilted oddly, and the left mirror is cracked. I've always had a soft spot for factory stickers, and I really like the one on this bike that warns against overloading it with luggage. The tank decal with the model name is also a nice touch, giving it that unmistakable 90s vibe. The official Honda name for this color is Vortex Purple, and I'm pretty sure Prince would have loved that. Everything else about the bike looks stock. Unlike the rumored mini Honda Prince supposedly had, this one doesn't seem to have any aftermarket mods. One feature I find a bit strange though is the taillight being mounted to the seat instead of the rear fender. It feels like it should be positioned further back, just above the license plate holder, but here it's right behind the passenger seat. Even though cruises aren't really my thing, I'd still love to take this Rebel for a spin. If only because I've never ridden a bike with forward foot controls before, and 125s are always fun, as long as you stay off the highways. If any of you have experience with the 125 Rebels, would love to hear about it in the comments. Let us know your thoughts.